Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first coffee corner of this year. We did several of them last year, which you might know, and we are very eager and very excited to continue that habit this year. My name is Ellen van Leuven. I will be your host for this webinar today. Please note, I do have to tell you that this webinar will be recorded and we will publish it on YouTube in a couple of days. So the subject of today will be Total Talent Management, or TTM for short. And for that subject we have invited Peter de Buc, who will tell you all about it, who will give you some interesting facts, some details, who will explain to you what is TTM, what can it do for me, what can it do for my company, what are the benefits, and should I embrace TTM or not. The presentation will be followed by a Q&A session, but of course you can always use the chat Zoom to ask your question. Please don't wait until after. If you have some pressing questions, just shoot them and we will ask Peter during the presentation. So now let's hear what Peter has to say about Total Talent Management. Thank you, Peter, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. For the meeting or the session for today, I prepared some agenda points. I will briefly introduce myself, of course, explain what TTM is about. Okay. As this is a very practical session, I will show some cases how we can implement TTM or TTM components in a company.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So, brief introduction. So I'm Peter de Buc. I have a background in procurement and sales. I consider myself as an HR tech entrepreneur. So I'm the co-founder of 3 companies already, Connecting Expertise, Lancer and DIPS. And next to that, I'm the co-inspirator of Public Sourcing, which is an MSP company. Privately, I'm the proud father of 2 teenage daughters, 14 and 16. And I am the owner of the company dog, Wifi, who is presently not here, but she tries to join us wherever she can.
I do see that she seems to be heavily involved in TTM. Oh, just a short technical matter. If you want to send questions, you can send them to the co-host, so they will come directly on my screen, and then I can ask Peter. Okay, so now back to our very involved company dog.
Well, a dog is involved in the TTM strategy of the company, in the sense that she allows us to stay active, to move, and the vibe that she brings in the office is a different vibe than just a normal, standard, classical office. Yes. So she plays with the ball, she interacts with the people in the office. So it's mentioned quite often that a dog or a cat has an impact on the well-being of people. So in that sense, she's involved. Okay,
one of the things to consider, get a dog or a cat. Good.
Absolutely. When we summarize the activities that we do as a company, we have the 3 components. We have Connecting Expertise, we have Lancer and DIPS.
Yes.
Connecting Expertise has 3 services, 2 software components, 1 service layer. We have the vendor management system, which allows companies to source and administer contingent workers. We have a marketplace where companies can publish their requests for niche profiles, or where they can find new suppliers. We have Lancer, which is a custom configurable talent pool for freelancers. So if you have a lot of freelancers in your company and you want to interact with them, you could consider Lancer.
Also for the freelancers themselves?
Also for the freelancers themselves. We have DIPS, which is a recent startup. DIPS is a student recruitment app. And then we have the brokering service that we deliver, which can be done by Connecting Expertise or via our partners, which is the contractual interface between a company and its suppliers.
Okay.
So the companies that we work for, we are active since 15 years, so we have quite a lot of customers. We're quite active in the energy sector, in the financial world, and in the public sector. with a growing amount of customers.
So I see bpost, I see Flemish government, those are all big companies. So may I assume that TTM is not for smaller companies and only benefits the large ones?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
What you see in the company list is that our first customer were typically the bigger customers. When you look at new customers like Manuchar, which is a more of an industrial company and a smaller company, they use the platform also in a different way. So TTM is about the vision and the way how you implement it, and we will come back to that in the cases. Can be very pragmatical and very down to earth.
Okay, great, fine.
So TTM, Total Talent Management, what is it about? I try to define or to give a definition of Total Talent Management.
Okay.
What it is for me, it's a more strategic, holistic way almost, a way of looking at workforce planning. And it has two big components. It has the talent acquisition part, and it has the talent management part. Where it's different than the classical way of looking at talent is that it concerns the contingent and the non-contingent workers. So if you look at...
So those are external people working temporary and your internal employees?
Absolutely.
Both groups, okay.
When you talk about external workers, contingent workers, we talk about freelancers, we talk about consultants, contractors, interim managers, students. So all the resources that you have in your company with the temporary character.
That are not on the payroll. That's the difference, contingent, not contingent. Okay, yeah.
And what you see, companies who are implementing a TTM vision, is that they look at people, at resources, in a contract neutral way. So they look at the resources that they need, and the contract is in fact a secondary component. So once they have the right resources that they want to work with, they look at the most efficient contract that fits the profile. Okay. So that's the talent acquisition part. We have the talent management part, and that's all about onboarding, offboarding, developing skills, and learning, for example, which are very important components of talent management.
Okay, so resources, employees, external, internal, that sounds like an HR project. TTM is an HR project.
It's often initiated by HR, but it involves a lot more than only HR. It's really a company vision that you need to have on a C-level. Okay. And HR is, due to the fact that they are very close to the talent acquisition process and talent management process, most of the times in the driving seat, indeed. Okay, I see. But when you look at the vision, there's nothing good to have a vision if you don't translate it to tools and processes. True. So one of the key components of a TTM project is also that part. Okay. Clear. So what is driving TTM? Because why are companies doing TTM? Is it because of the fancy name? Of course not. You need business drivers to do that. And what you see as main drivers is we are currently facing a war for talent. I'm not telling anything new here. So it's more difficult to find the right people for your projects, to solve your projects. And one of the ways of solving that is looking at talent in a more different way. So looking at talent for not only in employee modus, but also in a contractor modus. Okay. We see that legislation is also one of the drivers. Working with like external contractors, it has its limits also. So if you want to scale up your temporary workforce, you need to take that into account, especially if you translate that to tooling and to processes. You see that the market is changing, so economics are changing. We have crisis after crisis, so you need to be able to scale up quickly, but also to scale down quickly if necessary. Yes. So having a good balance between contingent and non-contingent workers is very key if you want to survive this market.
Mm-hmm.
You see also that talent is globalizing. I had a call this morning, just as an example, with a person who's supporting us in a new TikTok campaign. She's currently working from Bali for a couple of months. So you need to accept and cope with those changes. So the call was at 7 o'clock, which was for her in the afternoon. And costs, of course. Talent costs a lot of money.
Yes.
It's a big cost component in companies. So having a good balance between all the different types of talent, having them on the right moment at the right place is an important factor.
Okay.
So we talk about the VUCA world, so where the world is more volatile. This is especially true when you look at total talent management and talent sourcing and management strategies. So advantages, of course you have drivers, but what are the advantages if you do it? It's important also because it's another project that you do in your company, so it costs money. So one of the advantages.
So what are my benefits?
Well, it will lower your cost. It will help you staff your projects at the right moment and create a continuity for your projects. It will create a better retention, so it has an impact on your retention.
Okay.
So people, if they know that they can evolve, that they can grow within the company,
that's very important.
Longer,
yes, of course.
Of course, you will have better access to talent if you show that flexibility in the contracting phase, but also in the management phase. People will stay longer working at your company. They will be pleased that they can evolve and that they can grow and that you listen to them, which impacts, of course, your employee satisfaction score, which is also an important aspect. And it will allow you to have a more efficient way of planning and looking at resources. So a lot more advantages of doing of having a TTM strategy, but those are the most important.
Okay, I see indeed a lot of advantages for everyone. So I see it, everyone should be thinking about TTM and using that idea at their company.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the way of working already, or the way how companies work already, they have a lot of TTM components in place already. I will give some examples how we did some of the TTM components or tasks or projects, and a lot of companies do that already, but they still lack a more complete vision, strategic vision. So it's not only about having pragmatical projects.
So basically, most companies have the ingredients, but they miss the total recipe.
Yeah. So which is not a good thing if you want to read that.
No.
So this is a really pragmatical session. So I also try to give some examples of a pragmatical way of looking at TTM. Just before diving into some real life cases, I wanted to demonstrate also, because we talk about people, we talk about processes and tools. So the way how we look at it is that from a workforce planning perspective, you have your employees and you have your contingent workers. When you look at systems in place, when you want to engage new employees, you have applicant tracking systems. When you want to work with external contractors, you have vendor management systems, like Connecting Expertise has one. Some of the companies that we work with also work with outsourcing solutions. So when you look at contingent workers, we talk about MSP, managed service providers. When we talk about employees, and you want to outsource part of your employee engagement process, we talk about RPO, or resource process outsourcing. And what we do is we try to add additional sourcing channels. So for example, we have DIBs if we want to recruit students or work with students. We have the Connecting Expertise Marketplace if you want to have access to additional suppliers that you don't know yet. We can help you create a talent pool with the Lancer app. And then, of course, you have different sourcing models that you have or that you can look at. You have a broker, which is the difference between a broker and an MSP is that a broker does the administration. The MSP does the administration, but also support in the talent acquisition process and the selection process. When you look at temp labor contracts, you have a master vendor strategy. And one of the more or the new ways of working again is direct sourcing as a strategy. And next to that, you see that tools are being integrated, and there is a link between the applicant tracking system and the VMS system. So if you want to align your talent acquisition process, there is something to say about aligning the tools also, and letting them talk together.
Because you talk about a lot of things, this is not one tool that can do it at all, it's different ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The current market, if you look at a real mature applicant tracking system, it will be very good in the applicant tracking part. It will probably allow you to work with external contractors, but it's really different than a really mature vendor management system, and the other way around. So more and more you see that functionalities are getting more generic when you look at both tools. So the VMS systems are looking also at supporting employee engagement processes, but they are not mature enough to do that. So it's better to have a best of breed solution in place and let tools communicate with each other.
Okay, yeah, of course.
So some cases as promised, and they say eat your own dog food. So I was looking how Connecting Expertise, being a smaller company, we are 20 people, looks at TTM. And one of the things that I wanted to show as an example is the way how we work with students. So it's already 5 years that we have students in place and that we work with students. So for the moment, I think we have 4 or 5 students working for us in marketing and finance. And we try to ask an engagement from them for 2 years. So we start recruiting them when they are in their last 2 years of school. And they work for us in average at 1 day, 1 day and a half day per week. So we offer them a temp labor contract and a real job. So when they finish with us, they know what they want and what they don't want. And of course we have flexible planning, which allows them to do their exams or if they are too tired from a party the night before, not to show up and only work a half day.
So, of course, students, they have lessons, they have exams. So flexible, we need to be flexible, but it seems to be hard to manage.
I tend not to completely agree with that. What we try to do is we try to create teams so that they can back up each other. And if I would need a full-time marketeer, I wouldn't try to fill it in with 3 students, of course. So it has a lot more advantages than that. For me, it allows us to scale up. So for the moment, we have 3 students doing marketing. So we don't have work for a full-time equivalent. We could use it, perhaps, but in practice, with 3/5, we already jump quite far. So from our perspective, we really helped out with that team. and it allows us to bring in fresh blood, fresh insights, to stay in touch with the starters community. So you see that people stay, or some of the students
new ideas,
stay.
new ways of work.
And if they finish school, they really know what they want and what they don't want.
Yes, of course,
so,
they have the experience.
Yeah. So I think that companies also we have a CSR responsibility, a corporate social responsibility, and it helps us also to stay sharp. So for us, it has different advantages of working with them.
And for them too, I see.
And for them too. So it really is a win-win if you look at it.
Okay, great.
And the fact that we already do it for the 6th year, I think now,
of course,
confirms it's also. So for me, it's really a pragmatic way of looking at talent and working with talent, and we share knowledge with them, and they share knowledge with us.
Okay.
Another a bit different example is the Flemish Radio and Television, VRT, which is, when you look at HR cases, a bit of a pioneer in the world of total talent management. So they started the project, I think, almost 4 years ago. And what they do is they have a total talent management initiative where HR is in the lead, but they collaborate very closely with the business, with procurement, and they cover non-contingent and contingent workers in one process, one set of tools, and one strategy. So what's really innovative is that they already did it, initiated the project 5 years ago. They are also a public company, so they have quite some limitations in working with external contractors, and they integrated it in a very beautiful way. So they have one integrated vision, which is translated to processes in a technical environment. And the technical environment contains an applicant tracking system, it contains a vendor management system. They have a gig, an internal gig app that they implemented. They connect with their intranet, extranet and intranet for sharing opportunities. And when you look at their website, every job site of the VRT has the possibility of provides the possibility to apply for a job also as a freelancer. So they share their opportunities with the external world in different via different channels. And what for me was one of the nice things in the project is that they have a very interesting user interface, which allows the users, the different users, to connect to the TTM initiative in a very pragmatic way. So in the end, they ended with a more efficient talent acquisition process. They improved their compliancy, which is important for a public company, and they really have a better vision on the talent that they work with and the talent that they want to work with.
Okay. So user experience is very important here. So can you give us some more details? Can you elaborate a bit more on user experience topic?
Yeah. One of the things that we needed to take into account is that we wanted different tools. So we opted for a best of breed strategy from a tooling perspective. But that means that the users really need to think on which tool to use when they want to do a talent acquisition activity or talent management activity. And the innovative component that we introduced there was that when you open your iPhone, you see the different icons, which allows you to enter a tool.
Okay.
We made the activity tool agnostic. So instead of an icon which says, look, here you are going to enter the applicant tracking system, we added activities to the icon. So depending on the rights and the roles that the people have, they see a number of activities that they can activate, they push the icon and they immediately come into the right tool.
Okay.
And all the tools behind are integrated with each other and are also integrated with the VR key back
that's
office
very
systems.
user-friendly.
So it's very user-friendly. And when you add or would remove a new tool, the impact is more limited also for the users.
Yeah, of course, I see that. Okay.
So
great example.
Another example, also from a public company. It's not a project that we did, but it's a very nice example that I encountered on the market. Is VDAB. VDAB is the Flemish organization that supports companies and people looking for work. So the innovative part was, the case that I encountered was that they look at external contractors in a different way than a lot of companies doing now. So what they did is they tried to create a retention plan also for those workers. So they help them to have a career path. So of course they align with the service providers and the HR companies delivering those resources. But it helped them also to keep the consultants longer on board and to further develop their talents and the knowledge of the VDAB environment. What they also did is they aligned the onboarding and the processes of the employees with the onboarding processes of the contractors.
Okay.
So new starters were more quickly active in their project, and they know the same thing as the employees of the VDAB. So it generated quite a lot of savings because people stayed longer and the knowledge didn't get lost as quickly as before. So for me it was really an eye-opener because it was an initiative created by the IT department with a very positive impact on business continuity and the project's continuity.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that VDAB initiated treating their external people the same way as they do their internal employees.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether they do that for all the type of external contractors, but for the critical resources within IT, they are certainly treating them similar. And also there, when Connecting Expertise also works with external contractors for our proper projects, they are invited in all activities. Also the students that we work with are involved in the fun activities of the company. So you really need to treat the external contractors as similar as possible to your internal employees, because they are part of the team.
Yes, of course. It helps with the team spirit. Also. Of course it is. It does, yes. And it will entice people to stay longer. They get to know the people, they get to know the company, they get to know the atmosphere of the company.
Absolutely, and they are critical resources in the end also. So if you lose an employee or an external contractor, the difference is the contract that they have. But in most of the cases they do the same work.
Of course. Yeah, sure.
And the contract type is a choice.
Okay, yes, I see.
So those were three short examples of how you can implement TTM. When I summarize it, for me, it's about having a similar vision of working with your external and internal contractors, and really to look at the talent management process as from the moment that people start, but also when they go away or they leave your company, because they can come back in the later phase also.
Sure. Okay.
So that's for me a bit a short introduction on total talent management.
Thank you.
And some practical cases on how you can implement that.
Great, thank you, Peter, for this introduction. It was really interesting, and now we do know how to weaponize in the war for talent, actually, because this will be a very good tool to use then. Are there any questions? Is there anything you want to add? So your experience, some questions about what we talked about, things that weren't very clear, or maybe something you want to add to this? I'm not getting any at the moment, so I can say, Peter, we have been extremely clear today. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I also propose is that if people have other interesting cases that they want to share, you can send them to us.
Absolutely.
We can add them when we publish and share the presentation and the video.
Send us a mail, give us a call if there is something that you want to try out, if there is some questions you think about afterwards. We are always there, and we can always, well, have this conversation with you privately too.
Yeah, and it's a new way of working and
yes.
a new way of looking at talent. So for me, it's more a journey with very pragmatical projects and tryouts that you do, and some of the things will fit for your company, and others
and some
will
of
not.
Them don't, but we can find out.
And you need to adapt. Okay. That's for sure.
Perfect. Okay, so Bill, if there are no more questions, this was our first coffee corner of this year. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for being interested in TTM. If there's something you think about trying out for your company, give us a call, send us an email. You will receive a short request for feedback afterwards. We will send it to the email that you used to register. Then you also have our contact details that you can always use to contact us with questions. We like the feedback because we can always improve on the kind of webinar that we have. For next session will be in November, in a couple of weeks. It will be about the Connecting Expertise marketplace that we talked about a bit earlier. About, well, now who is on that marketplace, what does it do, how can I use it, what are the benefits for the company, what are the benefits for the freelancer, and all. Give us more details. So that's something we're going to do next time. You will be able to register in a very short time. We will send all the information to you for the registration. There is a question. Thank you. So, Peter, we have a question.
Okay.
Is it more interesting to hire people on a permanent basis based on their soft skills, or to hire external people who already have the specific hard skills?
That's a very good question.
Yes.
For me, I think it's all about finding a balance in your complete team and in your complete workforce. So what we typically see is that the balance between internal and external contractors is 70-30, 60-40. So it really depends on your strategy as a company. If you find people internally, most of the companies will have a preference for that, but it really depends also on the type of activities that you want to do. So it's all about having a good balance between internal and external contractors. So there's no left or right in answering this case for me.
There's no real preference, depends on the situation.
Yeah, and the way how we look at talent also is mentality is a very important component.
Yes.
You can learn skills, where you can't learn mentality. So if you have a good cultural fit with the resource, then you should go for that option, whether it's an internal or external.
It can be an external
person.
Of course, yes.
And skills you can learn.
People that match the soft skills or the idea of the corporation will stay longer.
Yeah.
Also, if they're external.
And will be more productive also in the end.
Yes, definitely.
So I would go for the soft skills then.
Okay. At the purely financial and accounting level?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question.
when you look at TCO as a total cost of ownership is an important way of looking at costs and investments. When you compare an external contractor, you will probably pay a bit more, but for me, you can have a margin of 15-20% that you pay more, because you also have a certain flexibility that comes with that. So there's an exercise to be made. I think external people are still a bit more expensive because they have a different cost structure. But when you look at the total cost of a person, you're not only looking at the salary that you pay them, you pay insurances, you pay a car. The car leaves on the parking, stays on the parking if the person leaves. So you have a lot of hidden costs.
Yes.
Also, when you look at your employees and living in Belgium and working in Belgium, we're talking about how this is done in Belgium. The employee cost is quite significant also. So short answer, external people are probably a bit more expensive, but there is also a good argument for that, in my opinion.
Okay. Any more questions, please? Okay, then if you come up with some later, you have Peter's contact details, you have our contact details, marketing will send you the mail, you have the contact details on marketing. And, thank you. Is it possible for public sector to work with those platforms?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, absolutely.
Definitely.
I think there is a reason why the public sector is one of the early adopters in the sector, because they have a very big need to work in a compliant way. And when you look at compliancy for the public sector, is they want to work with contracts, or one of the, they have three major concerns when they close contracts. It needs to be objective, neutral, and transparent.
Yeah.
And a platform as Connecting Expertise, but also other platforms on the market, allows them to work in a more compliant way. So absolutely. It will be part of a tendering processes in most of the cases, because the platform is not for free neither. And in most of the cases in Belgium, the platforms and the combination with an outsourcing partner are paid by the client. So it's a cost. For a public company, having a cost, it needs to be acquired or contracted in a compliant way also, which is part of the public procedure that needs to be done.
The public sector has been working with us for a while now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Years and years we're talking here, right?
When you look at the Flemish government, I think it's the third contract that we have in place.
Yes.
So we're talking about 8 years, 9 years already. Then again, Flemish government was quite visionary in the past, and still. And they are used as an example also by other countries for that project that they did.
True.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, like Alan said, if you would have any other questions, feel free to throw them to us, and we will answer them by mail or via a short call.
People are asking personal questions too, Peter.
Okay, about the dog.
No, what sandwich did you order for lunch?
What sandwich? Probably a chicken smoss would be very
Well, I think it's time to
for lunch.
Go see where that sandwich is then.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all very much. We're going to finish our first coffee corner of this year, and we really hope to see you again next time in November for the marketplace. Thank you.